Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this time we've got the pleasure of watching T10 playing in the top tier German medium tank, the Leopard 1. And whenever I have the pleasure of watching somebody play the Leopard 1 or I get to enjoy it myself, I always reminisce over the fact that this was the first tank that I did a full review on this channel. Gosh, must be 4 years ago now. How time flies when you're having fun, right? But let's focus on what T10 is going to be able to achieve in this game. Now, he is playing on the highway map. And you know what? In your medium tanks, one thing that I love to do is try and rush and take over the A1 corner. But the Leopard 1 is not a tank that's renowned for its armor. In fact, this vehicle doesn't really have very well-angled frontal armor, considering that it has only 70mm of frontal protection, and it's 35 at the side and 25 at the rear. And the turret, apart from having a little bit of protection over the mantlet, mostly when you're using the gun depression that this tank has, just doesn't really hold up very well. And so what that means is the Leopard 1 is probably one of, if not the best sniping medium tank in the game. And so by putting it at long range and using pinpoint marksmanship like T10 is going to showcase in this replay, you really put the tank in its environment. Now, when I call this tank the best tier 10 sniping medium in the game, you know what, I think I can stand by that. Obviously, there is the E50M as well. And you can't really talk about the Leopard 1 without comparing the two vehicles together. So what are the strengths of the Leopard 1? Well, the Leopard 1 has a better rate of fire. It fires 6.9 rounds a minute, whereas the E50M fires 6.25 rounds a minute. The Leopard 1 also has better aim time, 1.9 seconds, which means that your bloom gets tight very quickly indeed, allowing you to pull off clutch shots like that. Whereas the E50M, it certainly still has amazing aim time at 2.1 seconds. Having that bit of an advantage on the Leopard 1 certainly does give you an advantage. Both of the tanks have the best accuracy of any of the tier 10 medium tanks at 0.3, and so that means that you are very easily, happily sitting at long range sniping at tanks like this. And we're seeing that T10 is just starting to pick apart his opponents, and rather quickly indeed. Sure, these tanks don't have the highest DPM. I believe the Centurion Action 10 has a better rate of fire than this, or it certainly does. The M48 recently buffed rate of fire as well gives it a distinct advantage there. I kind of hesitated for a second there, because did you see that shot on that UDES? That poor tier 8 German tank destroyer just got killed in 2 shots, I believe, from T10 with that fire erupting from the hull of his vehicle. Wow, up to 2,800 damage in the first 3 minutes of the game and not a single hit point lost. We'll have to see how far T10 is going to be able to take this. But I digress back to the comparison of the Leopard 1 and the E50M. So this vehicle also has 1 extra degree of gun depression, which just makes it that little bit more flexible on the ridgelines compared to the E50M, which has 8 degrees. Although recently I know that they did improve the... or did they only do that to the E50? I thought they did it to the E50M as well. I think they gave the E50 and the E50M better gun depression over the front of the tank. That was one of the limiting factors of the vehicle, and one of the reasons that I really didn't enjoy it for those up close and personal brawling situations where it can become very awkward to use the tank. Also, this tank is ludicrously fast. It's one of the fastest tier 10 medium tanks. Its top speed limit is 65 kilometers an hour, and it also goes at 23 kilometers an hour backwards. That is better than the E50M's 60 and 20 backwards respectively. This vehicle also has a better power to weight ratio, with 1.5 horsepower per ton better than the E50M, which is roughly about just under 10% on there. The enemy Leopard 1 pushing forwards gets punished. Doesn't look like he quite wants to go after the Bat Chatillon 155-58, and he looks to try and shoot the artillery behind T10 here, and T10 punishes him, setting another tank on fire, the second of this game. How many more is he going to get? What a clutch shot there through the building. He definitely knows his way around this map. Just to finish off my comparison also, it has better ground resistances, and so this vehicle is just so much more mobile, including better traverse speed both on the track and the turret, and finally this tank also has better view range. But of course, the armor on this tank is tragic compared to the E50M, and everybody knows the E50M's armor, unless you can hit the turret flush, is absolutely tremendous. So Skay1, unable to stop the Leopard 1 from camping behind the building, instead decides to shoot his way straight through it. And he fires a shot at the Centurion there, but the Gorilla manages to finish him off just before the shell hits the target, which is unusual because this tank does have excellent shell velocity. 1,500 meters a second means that you barely have to give any lead. And right now, Skay1 is just in a farm fest, up to 5,500 damage. He seems to be in the fortuitous situation of the enemies seem to want to shoot his allies, and his allies are spotting for him. But it's mostly because of the position that he's put his tank. Unfortunately, the Grill, I believe, just lost 1,500 hit points to an Object 261. Must have been a penetrating shot there from the top-tier Soviet artillery on the enemy team. Now, I love what Skay1 does here. Do you see the way that he drifts back until he's no longer spotted and then turns around again, tricking his opponents into thinking that he's running away, hoping that he can, I guess, bait them out of their defensive position behind his own cap circle. One of the things he has to worry about right now is the fact that there are a variety of tanks that are going to be coming from the south here and applying pressure, and I don't think a Ferdinand is going to be holding up for long against a Mouse, a T-34 and a T-28 prototype, let alone the Scorpion G with an artillery support as well, a couple of artillery supporting him. Oh, great shot there into the auto-loading Czechoslovakian medium tank, and Skay1 does exactly the same thing again, hoping that he can trick his opponents. He runs away, he turns around, he comes back. But you know what? I don't think he was actually trying to run away from that situation. I think it was more of a case of getting underneath the bridge to be able to hide from the artillery. But you know what, Skay1, if you watch this replay, it's your replay. If you watch my video, please let me know. I love trying to get into the mind of players when I'm watching these replays, and it'd be really nice to know if you were pulling back there to try and trick him, or if the second time it was to try and avoid the artillery. Nevertheless, Skay1 puts a round into the Scorpion on the enemy team there, and now he decides to go after the WT Panzer IV with his WZ-111-14 friend. You know what, that 111-14 could prove to be vital because they are in a 3 versus 7 situation here, although 2 of the enemy tanks are self-propelled guns. So he spots the WT Panzer IV is on 395 hit points, and he reloads a high explosive round here because his APCR rounds does 390 on average, whereas if he can penetrate the high explosive round, which he does, it has 480 alpha damage, meaning he's all but certain to be able to take out the Tier 9 German turreted tank destroyer in a single shot. Now he dodges left and right, avoids a couple of shells. Thankfully, the artillery doesn't land a hit, because remember, while the Leopard is very mobile with excellent gun handling and incredible accuracy and enough gun depression, 9 degrees, certainly not the best, but also far from the worst, the armor would just fail if he could get one shot by an artillery right now. And a lot of the guns on the enemy team overmatch his side armor. Well, in fact, all of the guns on the enemy team overmatch his side armor. And his frontal armor of 70 isn't going to hold up very well against basically the 250 millimeters of penetration that everybody has on the enemy team. Now, Skay1 spots that the Mouse is starting to approach the base, and it looks like that WZ-111-14 is in fact going to come very handy in this replay. So he decides to push straight down towards the middle of the map. I guess he realizes that in this kind of a situation, when the Mouse has so many hit points, gosh, it's still got over 3,000 hit points left even though it's taken a hit. How utterly ridiculous. He is going to have to be continuously firing at this tank for pretty much a minute to be able to take it out. Well, that's a good start. 376 damage dealt. He's firing APCR rounds here, which is the correct choice because the Mouse has so much spaced armor over the side that the heat rounds are most likely to not be able to penetrate. And when he's aiming up at the turret here, it's even touch and go whether the heat rounds would be able to go through the side of the Mouse's turret. So he puts his third round into the Mouse, 1,188 damage dealt, and he fires one blind, and I bet you he wish he didn't, even though it was probably the right thing to do, because the Mouse moved backwards at an alarming rate, and the Object 261 finishes off the WZ-111-14, and that means there's going to be no more easy damage into the recently buffed Tier 10 German heavy tank. So Skay1 spotted the Scorpion above, but he decides to take a punt at the artillery. But the first miss, I believe, of the game, or one of the first real big misses of the game, nothing to do with Skay1's accuracy there, Just a bit of RNG shutting him down, and he can't afford too much bad RNG. But a great shot into the top of the Tier 10 Soviet tank destroy. So, self-propelled gun does manage to remove him from the game, and there goes the RNG. But he's still got to watch out for the M4043. He can't afford to stay still for very long here. He's got to keep moving. Great awareness. He finds out where the T28 prototype is as well, sees if he can get a shot, but pulls around the corner to take out the Scorpion G, who missed a shell on him earlier. Still with all 1,950 hit points, he is up to nearly 9,000 damage that we have seen him deal here. Now, where is that M4043 going to be? Right in the corner. This is going to be a 50-50 roll. He rolls slightly high to take him out, but he also loses his fuel tanks. One of the worst things about the Leopard is that it takes quite a lot of module damage, including a very weak ammo rack. He wiggles left and right, forcing the T28 prototype to fluff the shot into his tracks, avoiding 400 damage, which could prove crucial later in the game. And he does it again to him. You know what? Trick me once. Shame on you. Trick me. Oh, God, no, I've done a George Bush. Oh, I've done a George Bush right in the middle of the commentary. What is it? What did George Bush say? He's confused me so much, right? He said, trick me once, shame on you. Trick me twice, shame on you or something. It's shame on me the second time. So that T28 prototype, I bet you I've gone bright red right now. Let me take a look at my camera. No, not quite. Still looking okay. But yeah, the T28 definitely shouldn't have missed the second shot there. But Skay1 certainly has some moves, as he does manage to wiggle and avoid pretty much taking 800 damage. If he had taken that 800 damage from the T28 prototype, then he would be down to a one-shot from the T34 and the mouse. But luckily, he maintains 1,142 hit points, meaning that he can take 3 shots. Great stuff. Oh, we hear that one whiz just over his tank, and the T34 has probably decided, oh gosh, this guy seems to be ripping apart our entire team almost single-handedly. You know what, I think I'm just going to cap out this game. But Skay1 is making his way back towards the base. And you know what? I think he actually scares the T34. And the T34 decides to leave the cap circle. I think the T34 is spooked, thinking that the Leopard is going to make his way towards him. And the T34 trundles his way down the valley, I guess to go and try and regroup with the mouse. But in fact, that is the worst possible thing that the T34 could do, because that means that he is now in fact just sitting out in the open. And remember what I was saying about the excellent view range of the Leopard 1, 410 meters base, and that means that the, I believe, 360 meters view range on the T34 now, which was recently buffed, or is it 365? I can't quite remember off the top of my head, is unable to manage to catch a glimpse of Skay1 as he finishes him off, putting his damage total up to now 11,770, changing his 1 versus 3, I believe, now into a 1 versus 1, but such a dangerous tank to have to deal with in your Leopard, and it looks like the mouse has got a decent view range, as he was able to spot him at a fairly long distance. I just can't believe this right now. Skay1 has done so much damage to so many tanks on the enemy team that he's actually kind of bugging out my damage panel at the bottom of the corner here. But let's not worry about that now. It's neck and neck stuff here. The mouse has 1,455 health. Skay1 takes a shot for 248 and puts a heat round into the cheeks of the mouse. That is the best place to be shooting this tank. With 330 millimeters of penetration, he's easily going to be able to go through the cheeks of the mouse. But every time the mouse fires, he's going to be able to get 2 shots into him. So, oh, there's a ricochet. Look, I wonder if the mouse is going to be firing high explosive rounds again. If he does, now the fuel tanks are gone. Skay1 isn't using a fire extinguisher. He could get set on fire here. That would be an absolute heartbreak at the end of this game. Now over 12,500 damage. If he manages to put one more round in, he might go over 13,000. Just shy. The mouse misses. Skay1 has got a clean shot here to win one of the greatest games of World of Tanks I have ever seen. He connects it. 9 kills, 13,000 damage. This certainly was a hyper carry to end all hyper carries. So what an incredible performance here for Skay1. He made the impossible look almost easy in this game, showing you exactly how to play your long-range support mediums. So this was unsurprisingly an ace tanker, a Radley Walters medal for his 9 kills, a high caliber for one of the highest damage games in the history of World of Tanks, 13,200 225 damage dealt, with a whopping amount of base experience points to go to boot. 1,624, that is phenomenal for a tier 10 tank. And even after running out of APCR rounds and having to dip into the heat ammunition of his tank, he still makes a very decent profit of 37,000 credits. So Skay1, congratulations to you on what is one of my favorite rounds of World of Tanks of all time, and thank you so much for uploading this on the What Replays website for the community to enjoy. I certainly did, and hopefully all of you out there enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and click the more info icon in the top right hand corner of your screen to see some more awesome Leopard 1 gameplay. And let me know in the comments what you think about the Leopard 1. Do you think it holds up compared to the other tier 10 medium tanks, and what you thought of this monster gameplay? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.